I was aware of feeling so relaxed, like I couldn't move, but I wasn't really bothered that I couldn't move.
You'd be happy just to sit there and look at it forever, or just want it to land and go away with it.
Rachel Devereaux is a 35-year-old shop manager from Lancaster, England, who had her first missing time experience only 3 months ago. What makes her account exceptional is that it was shared by her mother Anne and her 2 sons Alexandra and Benjamin.
We've been to the Little Chef and we just had our tea there, an evening meal. We left there about 5:30. I remember looking at the clock, so I was thinking it was about 20 past 5:30 because I thought I've got my ironing to do, I need to get home.
Benjamin was in the furthest corner of the car and my nana was in just behind me.
The boys were chatting and we remember commenting on the chimneys. The silhouette of the chimneys really stood out against the sky. You know, when I think about it, that's the last thing I can remember. The next thing I remember is just seeing this awesome bright light.
I saw it going up and then it hovered right above the car.
It doesn't make sense even, you know, when I talk about it, but we all felt that it was like just this absolutely overwhelming love that you just felt from it.
You'd be happy just to sit there and look at it forever, or just want it to land and go away with it. Yeah, and leave everything else behind. It was hovering for a bit and came in front of the car and hovered, then all of a sudden it shot off.
Then it was like all of a sudden, and then I was driving and the noise was back.
You felt this feeling of loss when it had gone because you wanted that feeling that it gave you. You wanted it back again. Going from the Little Chef to our house should have taken about 20 minutes, and it's taken us 1 hour and 20 minutes.
You know, there's facts that I've gone over and over and over in my head and tried to rationalise and tried to fit into what we know as the world today and everything, and it just doesn't fit.
Whether these events are physical or psychological, the need for individuals to make sense of them is overwhelming. Having had a missing time experience, Rachel, Anne and the boys were left confused by what it was they experienced.
The next day we talked about it again and you just wanted to know who else had seen it, but you just didn't know how to find that out. And you know, we talked about a number of things and Mum came up with the idea of phoning the radio station, the local radio station.
A family from North Lancashire have been describing how they saw a mysterious light in the sky last night. Rachel Devereaux was driving on the moors between Ingleton and Bentham with her 2 children and her mother Anne. They all saw a bright light move at great speed and change directions. Anne says she's never seen anything like it before.
This was like a really, really bright, pure white light in a perfect ball shape. No trails, nothing.
Lots of people say, well, a few people have said they've seen this light, seriously. Keith near Clitheroe, Vera in Clitheroe, and Ian in Fenniscoles.
A local UFO group also heard the family's story and made contact.
I got in touch with Anne first. I phoned her up, and that was shortly after they first saw the light. And she was very euphoric about it. She was just wanting to know what it was, really.
The UFO group were able to help Rachel and Anne document the events of the night, but the emotional support they could offer was limited.
We're a local UFO group. We're not professionally qualified at all. And I think it would be quite difficult for someone to go to their MP, the GP. There isn't anyone who can deal with people who've got a strange experience like this. I think they will want to get answers to what happened to them during that time. Whether they will do is open to question.
You've got all these different factors in your life that are just a complete mystery.
It's helplessness. And it makes you cry. Because you don't know how to stop it, you don't know what it was. I mean, it's making me cry now. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm crying. If you start to think about it like we are now, it becomes overwhelming and you can't cope with it. I mean, they can mock you, the skeptics can say, oh, you've all got false memories and you all imagined it. But I know I didn't, because I know how it's made me feel inside.
More than anything, it's just wanting to make sense of it. That's the feeling it gives you. Just wanting more knowledge and wanting to make everything fit into place in a way that you can understand.
Rachel Devereaux had her first missing time experience just 3 months ago while driving home. Having looked into the phenomenon, she has decided to take a bold but common step for people who have had this type of encounter.
Hi. Hi.
She's going to have hypnotic regression.
I'm feeling quite nervous about it, about the regression, but also quite excited.
Right, so you might not have done this before, but I've done it a few thousand times.
Rachel's hoping that under hypnosis she can be taken back to when she had her experience and retrieve memories that are not consciously accessible.
I want it to be an honest account, you know, if I do remember.
How do you feel?
Happy.
Yeah. You so feel that, it's okay. It's okay to feel. Stay with it.
It's no walls, it's just black everywhere. It's like standing in the middle of space. There's big bright light here, right in front of me. That's high, and that's watching what the little ones are doing, the small ones going round and looking at us and talking to each other. They think the boys are funny. They think they're funny. I can hear laughing now, the children laughing, they're really giggling. I'm scared for the children. But the light's there and it's just telling me it's fine and we're not going to hurt them. They're your children. They're your children, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Just feel yourself coming back more and more alert. Good, well done. How do you feel?
Wow. I can't believe how real that felt.
From my perspective, having completed thousands of regressions over the years, she didn't fabricate that. She didn't pretend to cry.
Speechless. I'm just kind of speechless.
Do I believe everything that happened? I'm sort of 90% there, yeah, that it was real.
What makes this case unusual is that a whole family claimed to have had a shared UFO encounter. Other witnesses from all over the country corroborated the family's sighting, which led to a brief flurry of media interest. 7 years on, Rachel lives here with her mother and now teenage sons Alex and Benjamin. Travis and I are eager to find out how their experience continues to affect them.
Hi,
Rachel.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
You.
Yeah, hi, Travis. Nice to meet you. Do come in.
It's freezing.
I know. I'm going to shut the door. Keep it cold now.
That's a lovely cup of coffee. It's freezing outside. Just does the job. Well, thanks for seeing us. We're investigating lots of different UFO sightings. So, can you tell me about your UFO encounter?
Okay, well, it was for January 2005. It was Sunday evening, I remember. we'd all been out for a meal and we were driving back along the road, and I just looked up and saw this amazing bright white light, you know, directly ahead of me. The purest, brightest light you could ever imagine seeing. And we all kind of said, wow, what's that, you know? And it seemed that time stopped. As I was looking at it, it seemed for a long time we were all saying, what is that? Because it was just like nothing you could ever imagine.
At that point, was it above or below the horizon?
Above.
Above.
Yeah. All I remember after that is that it just shot away at the most amazing speed. It just left you completely bewildered.
I think I was about 8 or 9 at the time, and all I remember is catching it out of the corner of my eye, how fast it went. It's unbelievable.
And we were waiting for a bang. You know, we thought it was like a meteor or something, and there wasn't any bang, so it didn't fit anything that I've ever seen before. The only thing that has ever looked similar to the original UFO we saw is a video on YouTube where a light is hovering above the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and then it shoots up into the sky. And that's the only thing that's matched the speed and the acceleration that the original object had.
Yeah, it's the feeling it gave you as well.
Yeah.
Like in my head, it was, don't be frightened, we're not going to hurt you. And you got this feeling of overwhelming love from it. I think we all felt that, you did as well. Which was a very strange phenomena when you think about it.
It was the desperate feeling to see it again, you know, and that was the weirdest thing. You just had this longing to actually just, you know, for even a few seconds, just to be,
it's like
absolutely,
addicting.
yeah.
And to get that feeling back again. You're sort of desperate for that.
Here's an obvious question, but did you lose any time?
Well, this is what we discovered when we redrove the route. We nearly collapsed because it had taken us well over an hour to drive home. And when we did redrove the route, Rach said, it's only taken us under 15 minutes.
I had to stop the car and I literally opened the door and I just felt so dizzy and disorientated because I just thought, that can't be. I know that I saw it. I know, you know,
I said
so sure
Rachel,
of what was around me.
I said, you've driven too fast, we've missed it. Do you remember?
Yeah. It goes against everything that you've grown up to know as reality and to be able to explain away. And when you're confronted with something like that, it just makes you question everything, and we spent a lot of time trying to figure it out.
The family's account is beginning to sound plausible to me, but I know from the experience of telling people about my own UFO story, that doesn't count for much.
When you told people your story, they tend to believe you.
No, well, the thing is, at school I tried telling everyone, but I got laughed at and ridiculed for everything. As you can imagine, it's so crazy. People don't want to believe that kind of thing's happened. So.
I think people are quick to reject things, but it's very close-minded to deny something happened. Even though it's difficult, I can't fit it with anything that's happened to me before, I still don't refuse it happened to me. I know that it happened.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating.
You don't just dismiss things. Like before, perhaps, we'd have just dismissed something like that. Oh, it was an
I don't think you can truly believe anyone about anything like that until you've seen it something for yourself.
So does it help you to talk to other people yourself?
I think it does, you know. But back when this happened to me, there was hardly anything in the way of support groups. And, you know, I went to a few conferences where I was pretty taken aback by some of the strangeness that I encountered there. So I kind of avoided that too. And but it's improved, and people, you know, the good, solid cases, they're less reluctant to talk about it, and they're coming forward. So, you know, in that sense, I'm not alone. It's less traumatic now than it was.
Yes, yes.
I'm Sean Ryder. I've joined forces with Travis Walton, the legendary American alien abductee, to get to the bottom of the UK's most curious UFO incidents. Like Travis, I've had a brush with the extraterrestrial. I saw a UFO darting across the night sky back in the 1970s. We're in Lancashire with a family who 7 years ago claimed to have had a collective UFO experience. Travis and I are eager to make sense of what happened that evening, and no alien investigator worth their salt would leave without a visit to the scene.
So this is kind of the general area. This is
the road we were driving along in this direction, and we were obviously heading up that way. I remember the boys actually commenting on the chimneys.
I remember the boys going, oh, I think there's 12 chimneys.
You're right, it is 12.
Did you count them?
I just counted them.
Well, that's such a unique landmark. It'd be hard
Absolutely.
to find another like that.
Yeah, we saw the object in the sky just shortly after we'd seen those, and afterwards we all discussed that, you know, so we knew where roughly on the road.
We drove this way, and then I don't remember whereabouts it was. But as we drove down, suddenly I was aware of this light in the corner of my ear, and then it was in front of us.
Over the following days, Rachel and Anne returned to the site in an attempt to piece together what had happened to them and the boys. But despite being convinced this was where they saw the light, as hard as they tried, they were unable to find any stretch of road to match their memory of events.
So looking for a high point on this road, there's a big wide road, nothing on each side, and a white line down the middle. And if you drive around it, it doesn't exist, but we knew this is the road we were on.
So it wasn't much different from how it is now?
No,
just
a little
getting
bit
dark?
darker.
Yeah, just a little bit
darker. Yes.
And no traffic other than yourself.
Some level of amnesia or reality distortion is not uncommon in those who claim to have seen UFOs. But rather than the symptoms of traumatic experience, some ufologists speculate cases shared by individuals may be explained by some kind of extraterrestrial mind control.
I'll let you get back in the car before you freeze to death.
Oh, well, nice to meet you.
Thank
Rose,
you.
and,
Nice to meet you.
Right.
All right, I will...
Bye, Nana. Sit down.
Nice to meet you.
Me and Travis have a lot to chew over, so we're off to the chippy to pour over the details of the case.
Romantic meal for two. Why, thank you, innkeeper.
You're welcome.
Hey, for our fish and chips, Squire Trelawney.
The famous English.
The famous English fish and chips. Oh,
I'm ready.
I'm ready, sir.
It was cold out there.
I am now going to smother mine in gravy.
So, what did you think of the family's account of their sighting?
Well, first of all, I was pleasantly surprised that there was nice, normal people, not raving crackpots.
Yeah.
It's very credible. I mean, I do believe that, you know, they've seen something.
Yeah, it's apparent from their account that there's a core real incident that happened.
Well, the teasing that the boys had at school was just typical, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the media as well. I mean, the media, I suppose it's a little bit better now, you know, I mean, but certainly, you know, even a few years ago, I mean, anything that was in, you know, the dailies or the red tops was, you know, it was really poking fun at it.
Yeah, a little bit of tongue-in-cheek and sort of sign off with a little chuckle, like, oh, I'm above this topic, but, you know. In my case, my first reaction to seeing the craft was, I want to see it up close, I'm curious. And then people say, well, if you saw something again, you know, I say, well, if I did see something again, I wouldn't tell anybody. I didn't really have any choice the first time around because, you know, the crew reported it to the law enforcement. And, you know, the world knew about it before I was ever returned.
Knowing what I've seen, and when people tell me their sort of story, you know, I don't straight away jump in there, I'm going to believe this, you know, I mean, unless it sounds really credible to me, I just think, you know, I always have doubts about it.
But as far as, you know, what they described seeing, you know, I got the impression that they definitely
saw something, definitely. Yeah.
When we set off on this trip, I thought I knew all there was to know about Travis's story, but I'm beginning to realise I hadn't given much thought to how his UFO experience might have fundamentally affected him. And just like the Devereaux family, those effects resonate long after the news headlines have become tomorrow's fish and chip paper.